My sick girlfriend purposely coughed on my baby brother as a prank, so my mother put her in the hospital, and now she's coming back for revenge. The slap that followed echoed through my mother's living room like a gunshot. My girlfriend hit the hardwood floor with a thud, and my baby brother started wailing from his bassinet. I should have known this visit would end badly. My girlfriend lived for pranks that weren't really pranks, the kind that left me bleeding from thumbtacks in my shoes or crying from ghost pepper sauce she snuck into my mouthwash. She once shoved a massage gene up my behind without warning and laughed when I screamed, but she'd always kept that behavior between us, never involved others, until today. My brother was born 3 months early with basically no immune system. He'd spent more time in hospitals than at home in his 8 months of life. When I told my girlfriend we were visiting him, she immediately asked if she could prank him. The excitement in her eyes made my stomach drop. I explained again how sick he was, how a common cold could kill him. She nodded and promised to be good, but something felt off. Then Thursday night she came down with what looked like the flu. I wanted to cancel, but she swore she'd be better by Sunday. Sunday morning she claimed she was 90% recovered. My mother agreed to let her come if she wore a mask and kept her distance. Those were the only rules. Any normal person could follow them. But the second we walked in, my girlfriend made a beeline for the bassinet. She gushed about how cute he was and reached to pick him up. My mother physically blocked her and said she could hold him when she wasn't sick. That's when I saw the look. The same expression she got before her worst pranks. Everything happened fast. She announced she'd prove she wasn't sick and yanked down her mask, leaned over my brother and coughed right in his tiny face while he lay there helpless. Then she laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. I pulled her back, but she kept giggling about how it was just a prank and she wasn't even sick anymore. My mother asked her to repeat that. When my girlfriend confirmed she'd been faking illness all morning, my mother's face transformed into something terrifying. The slap knocked my girlfriend sideways. She crumpled to the floor, holding her cheek, and started sobbing. My mother stood over her, still speaking Russian. I grabbed my girlfriend and dragged her outside while apologizing over and over. She cried the whole drive home while I planned how to dump her. But halfway there, she started wheezing. Said her chest hurt from falling and she couldn't breathe right. Her lips looked bluish. The ER doctor's tests revealed walking pneumonia. My girlfriend had been seriously ill the whole time without knowing it. The adrenaline and excitement had masked her symptoms until the shock of being slapped made everything crash down at once. They admitted her for IV antibiotics and oxygen. I called my mother from the hospital waiting room. She was already at the children's hospital. My brother had started coughing and his oxygen levels were dropping. I spent the next 12 hours running between hospitals. My brother got intubated and moved to the PICU. My girlfriend needed breathing treatments every 2 hours. I felt like I was drowning in guilt. At 3 a.m., I found my mother in the children's hospital cafeteria. Expected her to scream at me, but she just looked defeated. The doctors had told her my brother's infection wasn't new. He'd been fighting something for days already. The timing was coincidental. Then she showed me her phone. Screenshots of text messages between my girlfriend and her best friend from 2 days ago. My girlfriend bragging about her master plan to fake being sick to test if my family was overreacting about the baby's health. She'd researched immunocompromised infants online, knew exactly how dangerous respiratory infections were. Her friend begged her not to do it, warned she could tell him. My girlfriend sent back laughing emojis saying everyone was too paranoid and she'd prove the baby was fine. My mother had gone through my girlfriend's phone while she was unconscious, found weeks of messages planning this prank, links to medical articles she'd read. She knew every risk and decided a laugh was worth more than my brother's life. I went back to my girlfriend's room and watched her sleep with oxygen tubes in her nose, then left a note saying we were done and to never contact me again. I walked out thinking we were done. Unfortunately, I was more than wrong, because she'd wake up soon, and when she found out I left her over a prank, she became determined to ruin my life. The next morning, I woke to my phone vibrating non-stop on the nightstand. 27 missed calls, 43 texts. My hands shook as I scrolled through them. The first message made my blood run cold. She'd written it at 5:47 a.m., right after the nurse found her awake and agitated. "You think you can just leave me? Your family destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy yours." The timestamp showed she'd sent it while ripping out her oxygen tubes, fighting off the nurse who tried to stop her. I sat in the PICU waiting room, watching my brother's tiny chest rise and fall with the ventilator. My mother noticed my face drain of color. She grabbed my phone before I could hide it. Her eyes scanned the threats, and I watched her expression harden into something I'd never seen before. Without a word, she forwarded every single premeditated prank message to my father, who was rushing back from his business trip in Chicago. My phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. My ex-girlfriend's best friend sounded panicked. She warned me that my ex was already creating fake screenshots, doctoring messages to make it look like I'd asked her to test my brother's immune system. Sarah had watched her do it from her hospital bed, using some app to fabricate entire conversations. My ex planned to send them to everyone we knew. I had to make a choice: engage with her lies or focus on my brother. The decision got made for me when his monitor started screaming. His oxygen levels plummeted. Nurses rushed in. I shoved my phone in my pocket and focused on what mattered: my family. Blocking her number took 2 seconds. 2 seconds later, her mother's phone called mine. I almost didn't answer, but the voicemail she left claimed my ex was dying and needed to say goodbye. The manipulation was so transparent it made me sick. I deleted it and turned my attention back to my brother's room. My neighbor Chen called around midnight. He heard commotion in the hallway and checked the security camera. The footage showed my ex at my apartment door at 3 a.m., wielding a crowbar. She tried to break in while screaming that I'd cold her baby. Chen had chased her off, but not before she'd damaged the doorframe. He offered to send me the video. I told him to save it and file a police report. By morning, her social media campaign was in full swing. She'd posted a sob story about how I'd forced her to visit my brother while she was sick, then abandoned her at the hospital. She tagged our mutual friends, painting herself as the victim. The post already had dozens of comments and shares. 3 different friends texted me within an hour, asking why I'd made her visit when she knew she was sick. Her manipulation was working exactly as she'd planned. They believed her twisted version, where I was the villain who'd endangered my own brother. Then Sarah called again, this time with good news. She'd secretly recorded my ex bragging about her revenge plan to another friend. In the audio, my ex laughed about how she'd destroy my reputation, get me fired from my job, and make sure everyone knew what kind of person I really was. Sarah sent me the file immediately. My mother tried calling my ex's parents to explain the situation. They defended their daughter and threatened to sue us for assault. They refused to look at the evidence, refused to believe their precious daughter could plan something so cruel. They promised legal action for the slap. The next day, my ex's mother showed up at the children's hospital. She demanded to see documentation of the assault, insisted on filing a complaint with hospital administration. My mother stood guard outside my brother's room like a sentinel, refusing to budge. Security eventually escorted my ex's mother out, but not before she'd caused a scene that disturbed other families with sick children. Sarah found something else. An old text from months ago where my ex had joked about thinning the herd when discussing weak children. She'd sent it long long before she'd even met my brother, proving this wasn't some sudden lapse in judgment, but a pattern of thinking. Jake texted me that afternoon. My roommate had changed the apartment locks on my ex's advice. She'd convinced him I was dangerous, that I'd abandoned a dying woman at the hospital. He wouldn't let me back in to get my clothes. I had to sleep on a cot in my brother's hospital room. My boss called the next morning. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint about me abandoning a sick girlfriend at the hospital. The twisted version of events painted me as heartless and cruel. I had to explain the whole situation, provide evidence, and hope I wouldn't lose my job over her lies. A hospital social worker pulled my mother aside to discuss the slap. My ex's mother had filed a formal complaint. The social worker took notes but mentioned something interesting. My ex hadn't been a patient at the children's hospital when the incident occurred. She'd been a visitor who deliberately exposed an immunocompromised infant to illness. That changed the context significantly. I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to her apartment complex and waited. 2 hours later, I watched her walk out carrying heavy grocery bags, moving perfectly fine despite claiming to be bedridden. I took photos of her loading her car, lifting 40-pound bags of dog food without any breathing issues. Her felt wrong, but I needed to know what she was planning. At a coffee shop, I sat close enough to overhear her telling friends she was pregnant with my child. My stomach dropped. This was a new weapon in her arsenal, a lie that would follow me forever. After she left, one of her friends, Megan, pulled me aside. She didn't believe the pregnancy story. My ex had bought pregnancy tests just to fake positive results. She'd shown Megan the tests she'd doctored with marker to create fake lines. Not everyone was falling for her act. That evening, I started researching. Found her ex-boyfriend Tom's social media, most of it set to private. But his sister Emma had a public profile. I messaged her, explained my situation. Her response chilled me. My ex had done this before. She'd destroyed Tom's life with lies about assault after he'd broken up with her for cheating. He'd had to move cities to escape her harassment. My father finally made it home from Chicago. He took one look at the evidence and went into business mode. Started documenting everything, creating spreadsheets, organizing screenshots. He called his lawyer friend for advice on protecting our family. His methodical approach gave me hope. The next morning, my ex showed up at my workplace with ultrasound photos, completely fake, downloaded from the internet. But security had already been alerted. They escorted her out before she could make a scene. My coworker Lisa told me later that my ex had tried to seduce her boyfriend the week before, fishing for information about my schedule and habits. Emma, Tom's sister, reached out with more information. She had documentation from her brother's ordeal, police reports, screenshots, witness statements. The pattern was identical. My ex would date someone, create chaos, then destroy them when they tried to leave. She'd been doing this for years. The evidence Emma sent painted a disturbing picture. Police reports showed Tom had filed 3 separate harassment complaints. Screenshots revealed my ex creating fake social media accounts to spread rumors about him being abusive. She'd contacted his employer with false allegations. The parallels to my situation were undeniable. I discovered she'd created a fake dating profile using my photos. Sarah alerted me when she spotted it on a dating app. The profile targeted teenage girls with inappropriate messages. My ex had included personal details only she would know. Birthmarks, scars, things that made the profile seem authentic. I screenshotted everything before reporting it to the platform and police. My brother's nurse mentioned a strange woman had been asking questions about his condition. The woman claimed to be his aunt and wanted specific medical details. Security footage confirmed it was my ex wearing a wig and sunglasses. She'd tried entering the PICU with a fake hospital ID. The hospital immediately banned her from the entire medical system. My father created a secure cloud folder for all our evidence. Screenshots, recordings, security footage, medical records proving my brother's infection predated the visit. Everything organized chronologically with backup copies. His business training proved invaluable as he built an airtight documentation system. The police took my harassment report, but explained it was a civil matter without direct threats of violence. They suggested pursuing a restraining order through family court. The officer seemed sympathetic, but said their hands were tied without more concrete evidence of criminal behavior. My Aunt Rosa heard about the situation through family channels. As a social media influencer with experience handling online harassment, she offered to help. She understood how quickly false narratives could spread and damage reputations. Her expertise in digital damage control became crucial. Emma provided more documentation about my ex's past. Her brother Tom had to abandon his teaching career after my ex spread rumors about inappropriate student relationships. He'd moved across the country to start fresh. The damage to his life was permanent, despite the allegations being completely fabricated. My ex's college roommate reached out through Facebook. She revealed my ex had been expelled from her previous university for framing a professor. She'd planted evidence suggesting academic misconduct, nearly destroying the man's career before security footage exposed her lies. The pattern went back even further than Tom. I decided to document everything without engaging directly. Each text, each social media post, each escalation got filed away without response. This strategy frustrated my ex into making increasingly reckless mistakes. Her messages became more unhinged as I refused to give her the reaction she craved. My brother's surgery got scheduled for the following week. The timing created additional pressure. Our family needed stability during his recovery. My ex knew about the surgery date through mutual friends. The countdown added urgency to every defensive measure we took. Jake discovered something disturbing while deep cleaning the apartment. A small camera hidden in the smoke detector, installed before he'd changed the locks. My ex had been watching the apartment, gathering information for her campaign. Jake immediately removed it and apologized for not believing me sooner. He became an unexpected ally. During a phone call with her mother that Jake overheard through thin walls, my ex's mask slipped completely. She screamed about making our entire family pay for humiliating her. Her mother tried calming her down, but my ex's rage was beyond control. Even her parents were beginning to see the instability. My ex sent a message through a mutual acquaintance. She offered to drop everything if I paid her $50,000 for emotional damages. The extortion attempt was brazen, but perfectly documented. I forwarded it to my father, who added it to our growing legal file. Sarah, Megan, and 2 other friends confronted my ex after comparing notes. They discovered multiple contradictions in her stories. The pregnancy timeline didn't match. Her illness narrative kept changing. When pressed for consistency, she lashed out at them for questioning her. More allies switched sides. Jake made a disturbing discovery while reviewing his credit card statements. My ex had memorized his card information during previous visits. She'd charged $3,000 worth of purchases in my name, shipping items to various addresses. The financial fraud was traceable and criminal. We finally had concrete evidence of illegal activity. Her support network dwindled to just her enabling parents and 2 drama-seeking friends. Everyone else had seen through the lies or been alienated by her increasingly erratic behavior. The isolation made her more desperate and dangerous. The hospital's genetic testing confirmed my brother's infection source. He'd contracted it days before my ex's visit, completely unrelated to her actions. This medical evidence removed her only semi-legitimate claim to victimhood. She couldn't couldn't even pretend her coughing had caused his illness. Rosa created a carefully crafted video explaining the situation. She presented evidence without sensationalism, focusing on protecting vulnerable children from dangerous individuals. Parent communities rallied around the message. My ex's ability to manipulate public opinion crumbled as facts spread faster than her lies. The crisis brought my parents closer together. They presented a united front against my ex's attacks, their shared purpose strengthening their marriage. My father's analytical approach balanced my mother's protective fury perfectly. They became an unbreakable team. Despite my rage, I refused to share intimate photos or personal information my ex had trusted me with. Maintaining moral high ground mattered more than revenge. This restraint frustrated her further, as she'd expected me to sink to her level. A confrontation at the grocery store tested my resolve. My ex approached me near the produce section, trying to create a scene. I simply held up my phone, recording everything while other shoppers watched. She retreated when she realized witnesses surrounded us. The public space had become my shield. Bank security footage revealed my ex forging checks from Jake's checkbook. She'd practiced my signature and attempted to cash several $100s worth. The federal crime of check fraud added serious criminal charges to her growing list of offenses. Her parents stopped answering her calls after their lawyer reviewed our evidence file. He'd advised them to distance themselves legally from their daughter's actions. The abandonment by her last defenders sent her spiraling further. Multiple witnesses now recognized her pattern. She targeted anyone who abandoned her, using increasingly extreme tactics to maintain control. Former friends, ex-boyfriends, even a former employer shared similar stories. The predatory behavior stretched back years. Tom flew in from Seattle to provide testimony and evidence. He stayed with my family, finding comfort in shared experience. His presence proved invaluable as we built our legal case. He'd learned hard lessons about documentation and legal protection. My ex appeared at my parents' house, demanding to speak with me. The doorbell camera captured her admitting she might have overreacted about some things. The half-hearted attempt at reconciliation fooled no one. She left when my father threatened to call police. Former friends began reaching out with apologies. As my ex's stories grew more contradictory and desperate, people recognized they'd been manipulated. My reputation slowly rebuilt itself through truth and consistency. Each apology felt like a small victory. Her options narrowed as more locations banned her. The apartment building, my workplace, the hospital system, my parents' neighborhood. She was running out of places to spread her chaos. Physical boundaries reinforced legal ones. Another revelation emerged through Jake's research. My ex had targeted a family with a sick child during high school. She'd volunteered at a children's charity, then tried to prove a child's cancer was fake. The organization had quietly removed her, but the pattern was clear. She'd always been drawn to vulnerable families. I focused on securing my brother's medical information while maintaining family priorities. Every hospital interaction required password verification. We couldn't risk her accessing his records or interfering with his care. Protection became a full-time job. A support group formed online as my ex's past victims connected. They shared stories, evidence, and coping strategies. The network grew to include a dozen people she'd targeted over the years. Strength came from numbers and shared experience. Her attempts to create new fake profiles got spotted immediately. Our network had learned her writing patterns, her favorite manipulation tactics, her technological methods. Each new attempt failed faster than the last. She couldn't adapt to our collective vigilance. Her last supporter, besides her parents, witnessed her slashing my tires in a parking garage. Security footage captured the violence clearly. Even someone who'd enjoyed the drama recognized she'd crossed into dangerous territory. The friend cut contact immediately. Local parenting groups shared Rosa's video widely. Warnings about my ex spread through mom groups, neighborhood forums, and school communities. Other vulnerable families received protection through awareness. Her hunting ground shrank to nothing. An IT expert friend analyzed the digital evidence. He confirmed technological trails linking my ex to every fake account, every forged document, every harassment attempt. The digital forensics built an undeniable case. Her technical knowledge couldn't match professional analysis. My brother's surgery got moved up unexpectedly. We had less than 24 hours to prepare. The compressed timeline meant focusing entirely on family. My ex surely knew about the schedule change through her remaining contacts. Our vulnerability peaked at the worst moment. Her parents finally watched our complete evidence compilation. The hours of recordings, hundreds of screenshots, dozens of witness statements overwhelmed their denial. They realized their daughter needed psychiatric intervention, not legal defense. Their enablement transformed into concern. The stakes crystallized perfectly. My ex faced potential jail time for fraud, harassment, and stalking. I simply wanted peace for my brother's recovery. The disparity in our positions grew more obvious daily. She'd created her own downfall through escalating criminal behavior. I developed a system for handling her texts without reading them. Everything got forwarded automatically to the evidence cloud. This removed her power to upset me while maintaining documentation. She screamed into a void while building her own prosecution. Even childhood friends distanced themselves after seeing evidence of the baby endangerment plot. Planning to hurt an infant crossed lines that no history could excuse. Her past couldn't protect her from present consequences. Truth prevailed without me saying much. Her own messages, recordings, and actions condemned her more effectively than any argument I could make. The evidence spoke with devastating clarity. I just had to let it accumulate. Her parents attempted an intervention at their home. She fled within minutes, screaming about betrayal and abandonment. Their security system recorded her destroying family photos and heirlooms. The violence toward her own family shocked even them. In desperation, she tried seducing Jake to regain apartment access. He recorded the entire encounter on his phone. She offered various favors in exchange for keys, growing increasingly explicit when he refused. The recording became crucial evidence. Jake's recording captured something even more damning. In frustration, she admitted she just wanted to prove the baby wasn't really that sick. The confession, clearly stated and recorded, validated everything we'd claimed about her intentions. Her employer terminated her after multiple customers complained about erratic behavior. She'd been sharing her victim narrative with anyone who'd listen, including during work hours. Professional consequences joined personal ones. Her life unraveled from every direction. My family rallied around my brother's successful surgery. The medical team marveled at our unity despite external chaos. We'd found strength in truth and each other. My ex's attacks had only made us stronger. Unexpected support came from Patricia, my ex's aunt who worked as a pediatric nurse. She was horrified by the baby endangerment plot and reached out to offer testimony. Family fractures on her side provided more evidence of her pattern. The prosecutor's office began seriously considering charges after reviewing our complete evidence package. Check fraud, identity theft, harassment, stalking. The list grew longer. Criminal consequences became inevitable rather than possible. Her final friend recorded a conversation where my ex admitted everything but claimed love made her crazy. She detailed each scheme while insisting I'd driven her to it. The recording demolished demolished any remaining defense strategy. Tom's testimony included a crucial detail. Years ago, my ex had told him she always got even with anyone who left her. The statement, made casually during their relationship, now seemed like a confession of her life philosophy. Digital forensics revealed she'd researched revenge tactics extensively. Her browser history included searches for destroying someone's life legally, revenge on ex-boyfriend, and making someone pay for leaving. The premeditation was undeniable. Our evidence file had grown massive. Over 200 screenshots, 50 audio recordings, 30 witness statements, and countless pieces of supporting documentation. The weight of truth was overwhelming. No lie could stand against such comprehensive proof. Her parents met with mine to apologize formally. They committed to getting their daughter psychiatric help and keeping her away from our family. Their shame was evident as they faced the reality of what they'd enabled. They promised full cooperation with any legal proceedings. My ex discovered her parents' cooperation and broke into their house while they were gone. She destroyed property, spray-painted accusations on walls, and stole valuable items. Their own security system captured everything. She turned on the last people defending her. The 911 call from her parents included her screaming threats against my family in the background. She promised to make us all pay, to destroy our lives like we'd destroyed hers. The recorded threats added criminal charges to her growing collection. Some mutual friends still questioned whether I'd driven her to this behavior. They suggested I should have handled the breakup differently, been more understanding of her mental state. The victim blaming stung, but I couldn't control everyone's perception. Standing alone against this final wave of harassment while my family focused on my brother tested every ounce of strength. I had to be the shield while they healed. The isolation was brutal, but necessary. Family came first, always. Despite friends suggesting I let it go and move on, I decided to pursue a restraining order. My family's safety mattered more than others' opinions about seeming vindictive. The decision wasn't about revenge, but protection. Her arrest for violating the hospital ban accelerated everything. She'd tried entering through the emergency department wearing scrubs. Security recognized her immediately. Criminal trespassing charges joined her other offenses. The legal system finally engaged fully. The courtroom date arrived faster than expected. 3 weeks after her arrest, we all gathered in the family court building. My ex sat at the defendant's table, her appearance drastically different from her usual polished look. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hair hung limp and unwashed. She glared at me across the room while her court-appointed attorney shuffled papers. Tom's testimony proved devastating. He detailed how she'd systematically destroyed his teaching career 5 years earlier. The judge reviewed documentation showing identical patterns, fake social media accounts, forged documents, harassment of employers. Tom explained how he'd lost his job, his apartment, and most of his friends before finally escaping to Seattle. His voice stayed steady as he described the months of therapy needed to rebuild his life. The evidence presentation took hours. My father had organized everything into a comprehensive timeline. Screenshots appeared on the courtroom monitor showing her premeditated plan to test my brother's immune system. The judge's expression hardened as she reviewed messages where my ex joked about thinning the herd months before meeting my family. Digital forensics revealed the full scope of her online campaign. The IT expert testified about fake dating profiles, forged documents, and systematic harassment across multiple platforms. Her browser history showed extensive research into revenge tactics, destroying reputations legally, and making ex-boyfriends pay. The premeditation was undeniable. My ex's lawyer attempted to paint me as vindictive, suggesting I'd orchestrated this legal action out of spite. The strategy crumbled when Jake's recording played. Her own voice filled the courtroom, admitting she'd wanted to prove the baby wasn't really that sick. The confession validated every claim we'd made about her intentions. Financial evidence proved particularly damaging. Bank records showed forged checks, fraudulent credit card charges, and attempted identity theft. The prosecutor explained these weren't crimes of passion, but calculated attempts to destroy my financial stability. Federal charges for check fraud alone could result in significant jail time. Her parents took the stand reluctantly. Her mother described finding their house vandalized, family photos destroyed, valuable items stolen. The security footage showed my ex spray painting accusations on their walls after learning they'd cooperated with authorities. Even her own family had become targets when they'd stopped enabling her behavior. The judge reviewed psychiatric evaluations conducted after her arrest. Multiple professionals diagnosed severe personality disorders requiring intensive treatment. Her pattern of targeting vulnerable individuals, particularly families with sick children, indicated dangerous escalation potential without intervention. Patricia, my ex's aunt and a pediatric nurse, provided crucial testimony. She explained the medical realities of deliberately exposing immunocompromised infants to illness. Her professional opinion carried weight as she described potential consequences ranging from extended hospitalization to death. The judge took extensive notes during her testimony. More victims emerged during proceedings. A former employer described how my ex had fabricated harassment claims after being fired for poor performance. A college administrator detailed her expulsion for framing a professor. Each testimony revealed the same pattern, perceived abandonment triggering elaborate revenge campaigns. My ex's composure cracked as evidence mounted. She began muttering under her breath, shaking her head violently at testimony she disagreed with. Her lawyer repeatedly touched her arm, trying to maintain courtroom decorum. The mask of victimhood slipped further with each piece of evidence. The prosecution presented our complete evidence file, over 500 pages documenting 3 months of escalating harassment. Screenshots, recordings, witness statements, medical records, financial documents. The sheer volume overwhelmed any defense strategy. Truth had become an avalanche burying her lies. Rosa's video impact surprised everyone. The prosecutor showed how parenting communities had shared warnings, protecting other vulnerable families. My ex's hunting ground for future victims had effectively vanished. The judge noted how community awareness prevented potential harm to other children. My mother testified about discovering the premeditated prank messages. She maintained composure while describing finding texts where my ex had researched immunocompromised infants, understood the risks, and decided entertainment value outweighed my brother's life. The slap that started everything suddenly seemed remarkably restrained. Sarah and Megan testified together about my ex's fake pregnancy claims. They'd kept the doctored pregnancy tests she'd shown them, providing physical evidence of her deception. Their testimony revealed how she'd planned to use a fabricated pregnancy to maintain control over me indefinitely. The judge called a recess after 5 hours of testimony. During the break, my ex's parents approached mine in the hallway. They apologized again, expressing shame over enabling their daughter's behavior for years. Their lawyer had advised complete cooperation with authorities to minimize their own legal exposure. When proceedings resumed, my ex's lawyer presented a different strategy. Rather than denying the allegations, he argued for psychiatric treatment over incarceration. He emphasized her mental health issues, suggesting imprisonment would worsen her condition without without addressing underlying problems. The prosecutor agreed conditional psychiatric treatment could protect future victims more effectively than jail time. They proposed a plea deal, guilty pleas to harassment and fraud charges in exchange for mandatory long-term psychiatric commitment. The judge would maintain authority to impose prison sentences if she violated treatment requirements. I had to decide whether to push for maximum punishment or accept the treatment option. Tom advised choosing rehabilitation, explaining how his ex-girlfriend's brief jail stint had only intensified her vindictiveness upon release. Patricia agreed, noting that untreated personality disorders typically escalated over time. The decision felt anticlimactic, but necessary. I informed the prosecutor I'd support the treatment option. Imprisonment might satisfy my anger but wouldn't fix her dangerous patterns. Mandatory psychiatric intervention offered hope for preventing future victims. My ex erupted when presented with the plea deal. She screamed about conspiracies, claimed everyone had collaborated to destroy her. The outburst proved she needed help while validating our fears. Court officers moved closer as her attorney desperately tried calming her. The judge's ruling was comprehensive. Guilty verdicts on multiple harassment and fraud charges. Mandatory psychiatric treatment at a secure facility with no set release date. Treatment progress would determine duration. Criminal charges would remain active if she violated any terms. A permanent restraining order protected my entire family, with criminal penalties for any contact attempts. Additional conditions included financial restitution for fraud victims and surrendering all electronic devices. She couldn't access social media or dating platforms during treatment. Any attempt to contact her victims through third parties would result in immediate imprisonment. Her final manipulation attempt came during victim impact statements. She clutched her stomach, claiming severe pain, possibly appendicitis. Medical staff examined her and found nothing wrong. The transparent attempt to delay proceedings and garner sympathy fooled no one. My family chose not to give impact statements. We'd said everything through evidence and testimony. Words couldn't capture the terror of 3 months spent documenting threats while caring for a critically ill infant. Actions and consequences spoke louder than any speech could. The judge ordered immediate psychiatric transport. My ex would go directly from courthouse to secure treatment facility. No opportunity for final harassment attempts or goodbye manipulations. The bailiffs prepared to escort her out. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. No words, just a look of pure hatred mixed with disbelief. She genuinely expected to manipulate her way out of consequences, as she'd always done before. Reality had finally caught up. Her parents waited in the hallway, looking decades older than 3 months ago. They promised to maintain her treatment and keep distance from our family. Their daughter's arrest had forced them to confront years of enabling destructive behavior. They seemed genuinely committed to change. Outside the courthouse, Tom shook my hand before heading to the airport. He'd flown across the country to prevent another victim. His testimony had been crucial, but reliving the trauma had clearly cost him. He left with my gratitude and hope that this chapter of his life was finally closed. The immediate aftermath felt surreal. No more constant phone buzzing with threats. No more checking security cameras for midnight visitors. No more documenting every interaction for evidence. The sudden absence of crisis left a strange void. My family refocused entirely on my brother's recovery. Without constant harassment draining our energy, we could properly support his medical needs. His progress accelerated with our undivided attention. The timing felt like poetic justice. Jake had the apartment locks changed again and installed a comprehensive security system. He'd learned valuable lessons about trust and manipulation. Our friendship, tested by my ex's lies, emerged stronger. He became fiercely protective of screening future roommate guests. Work normalized quickly once harassment stopped. My boss appreciated how I'd handled the situation professionally despite personal chaos. Co-workers who'd questioned my character saw the truth through court proceedings. Professional relationships rebuilt naturally. The support network of my ex's victims maintained a quiet vigilance. We shared updates about her treatment status and watched for any signs of renewed activity. The bonds formed through shared trauma became unexpected friendships. 3 months into her treatment, her psychiatrist requested a meeting. My ex had experienced a breakthrough, finally acknowledging her pattern of destructive behavior. She'd written letters of apology to victims as part of therapy. The psychiatrist asked if I'd be willing to read mine. I declined. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Her acknowledgement meant nothing compared to the trauma she'd inflicted. The letter went unread into our evidence file, just another document in a massive collection. 6 months after the trial, life had found new rhythm. My brother had fully recovered from his surgery, meeting every developmental milestone. His immune system had strengthened enough for careful public outings. Watching him thrive erased the darkest memories. I'd started dating again, cautiously. The new woman in my life understood boundaries and respected them. She found pranks juvenile rather than entertaining. Her stability felt revolutionary after years of chaos. We took things slowly, building trust through consistency. My mother's hypervigilance had softened, but never fully disappeared. She still checked doorbell cameras more than necessary and startled at unexpected visitors. The slap that started everything had become family legend, a moment of protective fury that possibly saved lives. My father had returned to his business travels, but called home more frequently. The crisis had reordered his priorities permanently. He discovered that spreadsheets and documentation skills could protect family as effectively as any physical shield. The evidence cloud remained archived but untouched. 500 pages documenting a nightmare that felt increasingly distant. We'd won through truth and persistence, not manipulation or revenge. The moral high ground had proven strategically superior. My ex remained in psychiatric treatment with no release date set. Her parents sent occasional updates through lawyers. Progress was slow but measurable. She'd likely need years of intensive therapy to address personality disorders that had driven her behavior. Sometimes I wondered what created someone who viewed love as ownership and revenge as justice. The question had no satisfying answer. Mental illness explained some behaviors, but didn't excuse them. She'd chosen cruelty repeatedly when kindness remained available. Our story never made headlines or inspired legislation. No books or documentaries emerged from our experience. We were simply one family who'd survived a disturbed individual's campaign of harassment. Our victory was personal. Protected child, preserved sanity, maintained dignity. The deepest lesson was recognizing red flags I'd previously ignored. Those pranks that left me bleeding or humiliated were abuse wrapped in laughter. Love shouldn't require pain tolerance. Boundaries weren't suggestions, but requirements. My brother just celebrated his 2nd birthday. He runs now, laughs constantly, and shows no lasting effects from his early health struggles. When I watch him play, I remember how close we came to tragedy. One person's desire for entertainment nearly cost his life. Recovery wasn't a destination, but a journey. We'd found our new normal, more cautious but not paralyzed, protective but not paranoid. The scars remained, but no longer defined us. We'd learned that family united could survive any assault on their peace. Looking back, that slap in my mother's living room had been the sound of consequences finally arriving. It took 3 months of escalating harassment, legal proceedings, and psychiatric intervention, but justice had prevailed. Not through revenge, but through truth persistently documented and presented. We'd protected ourselves and prevented future victims. That was victory enough.